What are the pros and cons of living in Tennessee? If you've thought of moving to Tennessee and you're researching whether or not it might be a good fit, you need to know not only the reasons you should, but also some reasons you might not want to make Tennessee home. No state is perfect, and all have their pluses and minuses. We've put together a list of pros and cons of living in Tennessee. Hi, I'm Scott Henninger with the Home Team, brokered by eXp Realty. Kim and I are in love with Tennessee and consider ourselves lucky to call Bristol home. We specialize in helping out-of-state buyers relocate to the Northeast Tennessee area. First, the cons. Sales tax in Tennessee is high, 9.25% on general purchases and 7.25% on food. The combined tax rate is among the highest in the nation and is about 1% higher than California and New York, for example. That's one reason why living in a border town like Bristol is smart. Being on the Virginia border, we tend to shop in Virginia, where the sales tax is just 5.3%, except for food, which is only 2.5%. But we get to avoid the state income tax by living in Tennessee, since Tennessee doesn't have one. More on this later. Number two con, we're landlocked. If you love the ocean, you're going to have to drive a while or fly to get there. Now the drive isn't too bad depending on where you want to go and where you're starting from, but sometimes that makes it feel more like a true vacation. From our corner in Northeast Tennessee, you can get to Carolina Beach and Wrightsville Beach in about 6 hours. Myrtle Beach just over 6 hours. Charleston, South Carolina takes about 5.5 hours. And if you want to go to Florida, Jacksonville, Florida is about an 8-hour drive. Now Tennessee does have plenty of outdoor water activities and lakes seem to be everywhere, but if the ocean is a must, be ready to drive. Number three, bugs. I've seen several YouTubers talk about all the bugs in Tennessee as one of the cons of living here. And no doubt we do have our fair share of mosquitoes, gnats, bees, and camel crickets. If you haven't seen a camel cricket before, get ready. They look like giant spiders, but they can jump like crazy. And being a southern state, we live in a climate that termites prefer, so if you're buying a home, you want to be sure to have your home inspected for those. What you may not know is that Tennessee is not even in the top 10 list of states where the most bugs are. Florida's number one. No surprise to me, thanks to all the love bugs that you have to clean off your windshield in the summer if you're driving through, the mosquitoes and the palmetto bugs. California is actually number 4, while New York State is number 6. So if you're moving to Tennessee from any of those 3 states, you're going to see an improvement. However, we do have good bugs also. Hard to beat a summer night on the back patio or deck watching lightning bugs, or fireflies as they're called. In fact, the Great Smoky Mountains National Park is one of the few places in the nation where you can see synchronous fireflies. Thousands of the males light up at the same time in a repeating pattern. Seeing these is a popular activity and only happens for a few days a year. So you'll actually have to enter your name in a lottery and hope to get a spot, but I've heard it's worth it. Number 4, the weather. Being a southern state, we do have high humidity in the summers. 71% is the average annual humidity for the year in Bristol, for example. But what you may not know, if you're moving here from LA, you'll find the exact same numbers, while San Francisco is actually higher at 74. If you live in New York, Bristol's average annual humidity is the same as Albany, Buffalo, Rochester, and Syracuse. Northeast Tennessee, compared to Nashville, has essentially the same humidity, but thanks to cooler temps in the northeast part of the state, it's much more bearable. Here in Bristol, in the northeast corner of the state and near the mountains, the average high is around 85 during the summer and the average low is 65. During the coldest month in winter, the average high and low is 47 to 29. Now, Middle Tennessee, Nashville comes in at 5 degrees warmer during the summer, but the same in winter at 90 and 70. Western Tennessee is the hottest part of the state, as you might imagine, as Memphis averages a high of 92 during the summer and an average low of 74. I've had a lot of out-of-state buyers ask about tornadoes, and sure, the state does get its fair share, Middle Tennessee especially. Over the last 70 years, East Tennessee averages just 3.5 tornadoes per year. Middle Tennessee averages 9 per year, while West Tennessee averages 5.4 per year. As an example, in 2021, While there were just 3 in all of East Tennessee, Middle Tennessee experienced 45 tornadoes, while West Tennessee had 18. Number 5 con. Traffic in the bigger cities, such as Memphis, Knoxville, and particularly the Nashville metro area, can be pretty bad during rush hour and around the holidays. But Gatlinburg and Pigeon Forge in the summer and fall peak tourism days can rival all of those. The Great Smoky Mountains National Park is the #1 most visited national park in the nation. So pick your days carefully and plan your trip so hopefully you don't wind up sitting for hours in traffic. Try to come in no later than Thursday during the week, and leaving on a Sunday can get you stuck in traffic too. So plan to stay over until Monday and you'll be able to get out of town much more quickly. Here in Northeast Tennessee, especially Bristol, traffic jams are non-existent. I grew up here, but I've lived in Chicago and Atlanta and done a fair amount of traveling throughout the country, so I do know what bad traffic is like. And I've got to admit, when I hear someone complain about traffic because it took them 45 seconds to pull out onto a highway, I've got to fight the urge to roll my eyes. It's all about perspective though, and I understand. So there were some negatives about living in Tennessee. Now let's move on to the pros of living here. Number 1, lower taxes. Although we have high sales tax rates, the other taxes are very low in comparison to most parts of the country. We have no state income tax on earnings, whether it's employment income or retirement income. None. We're seeing a lot of people leaving the more heavily taxed states for Tennessee. We've recently had buyers come to the area from Arizona, New York, California, Illinois, and Connecticut, plus more, thanks to the fact that they know they will get to keep more of their own money. Not only is there no state income tax, but lower property taxes. The states of Tennessee and California have similar property tax rates and are ranked number 36 and number 34 in the nation respectively, but thanks to property values, the average home price in California is $555,000 instead of just $186,000 in Tennessee. That translates to you paying on average 3.3 times more in property tax if you live in California. New York's property tax rate is nearly double that of both Tennessee and California at 1.3%, and this translates, on average, a New York resident paying over 3.5 times more property taxes than a Tennessean when you figure in the average price of housing in both. Number 2 pro, a lower cost of living. Thanks in part to much lower taxes and more affordable housing, Tennessee's cost of living is one of the lowest in the nation. Tennessee has the 5th lowest cost of living index in the U.S. In comparison, New York and California are ranked 47th and 48th. The cost of living index looks at things like the cost of transportation, utilities, food, health care, and insurance, as well as housing. California and New York are roughly 50% more expensive than the national average, while Tennessee is about 9.5% less than the national average. You want to get more for your money? Consider moving to Tennessee. Number 3 pro for living in Tennessee, outdoor activities. I know you're going to have to drive 5 or 6 hours to see the ocean from our little part of Northeast Tennessee, but I'd much rather be able to enjoy the natural beauty our state offers and skip the long drive plus fight the crowds. We have mountains, lakes, rivers, streams, so you can do boating, swimming, water skiing, whitewater rafting, bass fishing, trout fishing. Those are all going to be within a short drive of most of the areas in the state. Hunting, of course, is popular in Tennessee as well. If you like the snow and happen to live in Northeast Tennessee, you can drive for less than an hour and a half to snow skiing during the winter months at Beech Mountain or Sugar Mountain in North Carolina. If you like to hike, some of the best trails on this side of the Mississippi can be found in Tennessee. In fact, 75 miles of the Appalachian Trail are within Tennessee, but another 218 miles of the trail run across the border of Tennessee and North Carolina, and it ranges in elevation from 1,300 feet to over 6,600 feet. But some of the best trails can be found in and around the small local communities throughout the state. The state's many Rails to Trails projects give you all sorts of options, from asphalt, paved, biking or walking experience to a more challenging trail. And mountain biking is popular as well, with trails for both beginners and experts throughout the state. Tennessee is home to the Great Smoky Mountains National Park. the most visited national park in the U.S. In 2020, over 12 million people visited. The next closest was Yellowstone at under 4 million. There's a reason why it's the #1 national park, offering just about anything an outdoors person could ever want. Of course, many people have heard of Gatlinburg and Pigeon Forge at the base of the Smokies, but there is so much more to the area than the more typical tourist activities. The park covers over 500,000 acres of land. Take a drive on the Foothills Parkway if you want to get a quick getaway, for example. You used to have so many options. Just get out there and explore. #4 pro for living in Tennessee, music. Many people associate the state of Tennessee with music, especially country music. In fact, Nashville is often referred to as Music City, USA. The state capital is home to the Grand Ole Opry and the Country Music Hall of Fame, and is known as a mecca for songwriters and musicians. Memphis was a center of blues music for much of the 20th century, and is considered by some to be the home of the blues, as well as the birthplace of rock and roll, plus it played an important role in the early days of jazz. And let's not forget Bristol, where country music was actually born. The state hosts several music festivals each year, including Bonnaroo, which is a 4-day festival in Manchester that brings in up to 100,000 people each year. But you'll find small music venues and festivals throughout the state featuring just about any genre of music you might want to listen to. #5 pro. The people are genuinely nice. You especially get that feeling in the smaller communities with that small town vibe to go along. Now, I've lived in the bigger cities such as Atlanta and Chicago, and I can tell you that it's just different here, at least in Bristol and the surrounding areas. I haven't lived in Middle or West Tennessee, but I'd expect it to be similar there from the people that I've talked to through the years. People wave at you for apparently no reason. Strangers will open the door for you as you're walking into a restaurant. People say thank you, and people are very welcoming to visitors. So don't be worried if you're coming from a different part of the country that you won't feel part of the community. You will. Take the time to get to know us. I promise you'll be glad you did. So that's it. 5 cons and 5 pros of living in Tennessee. If you can think of any others, please comment below and let us know what we missed. I'm Scott Henninger with the Home Team, brokered by eXp Realty. If we can help you in any way, just reach out to us. My wife Kim and I would love to tell you more about why we call Tennessee home.